Hello and welcome to another edition of the Alpha Male Perspective. My name is JP Craddock and I will be your host this evening. Where would I be without my fellow alpha males? First up, we have LV. What's up, LV?
Hey, how you doing, JP? It's been a struggle for me this week, man. I'm still adjusting from the drive back. Had another funeral to do on Monday. Had another two vet appointments this week. One Monday and then one today. I'm stressed out, man. I'm stressed.
Mhm.
I'm stressed.
I'm sorry to hear that you had. I'm sorry to hear that you had another funeral. This is you got your drink with you. You got your drink.
Yeah, I'm strictly fine tonight. Nothing but
Oh, you
juice.
non-alcoholic tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Non-alcoholic tonight.
All right.
Small cigar tonight.
Next up,
Scaling it
we
back a
got
little bit.
right, chilling back a little bit. Coleman,
What's
what's up,
popping with you?
Coleman? How are you doing this evening?
Man, I'm good. Asking for grace again. I'm shooting the show, my boy football tonight. So it's like every night there's something. So I'm out at the high school watching flag football game. So, but I'm doing well, man. Glad to be with you, brothers.
Okay. Now, is it y'all tell me, is it just my image of him that all I'm seeing is a hat and glasses, or do y'all see all of him?
It's because of
I
the
just
way.
see a hat.
Yeah, it was
Our
because of
thing
the
is set
way.
up.
It's what our cameras does because of when we're looking at
Yes.
our screen. But when it goes out, you get a bigger view of all of us. I didn't know that till I
Oh, okay.
actually watched
Yes.
the show because I was saying the
Oh,
same
okay.
thing you
Yes.
were saying, and then when I watched the show, I'm like, damn, he was there the whole damn time. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, LV and I live in Texas. So we came out here to the football field at around 5:45, and it was 106 degrees. So you have to excuse my hat.
You gotta
Yeah,
have them
you
out here,
need that
man.
hat. 106.
Yeah,
All
it was
right, last but
106.
not least, we have John E. Quick. Johnny Quick, how you going? How you doing? Tell everybody where you are remotely joining us from.
Yeah. They're in Texas with 106-degree weather. It's 1:30 in the morning where I am. I said I was going to be here, but I'm in Iceland. Getting ready to board, come back to America. I've had an enjoyable trip. All the stress LV had left for me because I relaxed, enjoyed myself, and I'm really, really, really had a good time.
Can you tell our people one place? Let's do this real quick. Can you tell our people, our viewers, one place that they should check out if they go to Iceland?
Well, I can do two places because one that everyone hears about is the Blue Lagoon, and I have lovely pictures. Another time, I will share some pictures from that, and that's something that people always talk about. But any place that I name, you'll hear. But the one thing I'll suggest is going to Gold Circle because the Gold Circle takes you around to see glaciers. It'll take you around to see some of the volcanoes, the tectonic plates, and those are the places that separating Iceland, Europe from America. And I forget how many centimeters it separates every year, but I would definitely recommend that.
You can see the separation in the plates, or
Well, you're not standing over there at the edge, but when you go out on the tour, they show you because you can see where America is, and that's what's causing some of the earthquake. Because they have earthquakes every day, but you don't feel them. The last major one that they felt was like in the early 2000s. But you can tell because that's the reason why the water is warm, geothermal cool water. So you'll see it just naturally is warm when they pipe bring it in from the earth, and it's really a lovely place. People think it's real cold. This is the summertime around the 50s and 60s, but I've gotten the 50s and 55 because we've had overcast, so it was sprinkling, raining off and on. And these last 2 days, we've had a bit of sun, but it hasn't really been cold.
Okay,
And now Coleman's back.
yes, Coleman's back. Welcome back, Coleman. When
Listen, listen.
in the
I don't mean
winter,
to cut John off. It's so hot. My phone said I got to shut down until it cool off.
and he's in Iceland. Okay, Johnny Quick. In the winter,
Yes,
how cold does it get in Iceland?
I didn't ask. I'm not gonna be here.
That would be good to know. Okay, for our people out there who may be wondering why did Johnny Quick choose to go to Iceland, something that you said that I really like is that you just have a goal of seeing the world. And
Yes,
I like that goal. I think that not only we as a people, but all people, we really grow from experiencing different cultures and different parts of the world and how people
yes,
live in other places because we know how we do things here in America, but it is really interesting when you're outside of the country and you see how different things can be. And so
yes.
I like that goal. I encourage, our viewers, if you have the opportunity to, check out some joints, some different spots, please
Not
do
the
so.
same top seven.
What?
I said not the same type seven that we like to tend to go to. Go broaden your horizon because we will easily go to Puerto Rico, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Bahamas, Jamaica. That's pretty much our standard. And LV's counting them, but I didn't break them down all of them. But that's typically where we go. We and I'm glad the topic you brought up because I was going to really touch upon that. And the topic is, but taking the advantage to learn. We all like to kick it. I like to kick it, but I like to also kick it and learn where I go, just so I can understand the making of the world, the history, and different things like that. And a lot of people have this fear of not wanting to go anywhere because they have this preconceived notion that we're not accepted there or um, there's no black people there. There's nothing for me to do. And if we use that as our driving force, we'll never do anything, never accomplish anything because that fear factor is going to always be there as to why we can't. And that's something I posted. We always can come up with the reasons why we can't. What's one reason why you can?
Right. Okay. Okay. I like that. And I like that just that suggestion that, we go outside of the tropical areas because yeah, black folks love the tropics, love a beach and all of that. But you're right. There's
They
more
love
to the
Amsterdam
world than
too.
just that.
Yes, yes, they do love Amsterdam.
Um, I
I've
got
been
some.
there too.
I got some feedback that
What the hell you do in Amsterdam?
Hey, because I don't partake of everything doesn't mean I don't go there to enjoy the seeing others partake of
Oh,
things.
the red light district. Damn.
all right. Coming up on the show today, we have today's perspective is what are some of the things that you don't like about black folks, our culture, African American culture, and the African American community? And what do we need to do to move forward as a people? So, if anyone out there has any comments on that, any feedback on that, please hit us up in the chat. We're going to get to that in a little bit after a little segment that we like to call the good, the bad, and the ridiculous. Now, Johnny Quick is handling this business from Iceland. It's my understanding from some feedback I got that we're not live on Facebook right now, but whenever this episode is uploaded onto Facebook, we still want to know what you all's comments are on what we need to do to improve the black community. So we still welcome those comments and we'll share some of those comments in the next episode. Okay, the good, the bad, and the ridiculous. Several streets in Kansas City are named after slaveholders. And it has recently been decided that these streets, the names of these streets will not be changed. There was a meeting in March by the Board of Parks and Recreation that they are no longer considering a plan to rename these streets. Now, here's the interesting part. This is what sat me straight up in my chair. The streets, the streets are Warnell. That really wasn't a shocker. John Warnell once owned 6 slaves. He has a major street here. For those of you who are not from Kansas City, Warnell Road is a more affluent area. Okay. The next street is McGee, who was a Southern sympathizer who owned at least 5 slaves. He married when he was 54. He married a 19-year-old. That's a whole nother episode,
right?
At 54, he married a 19-year-old.
But he want my man R. Kelly.
Yeah, who?
Just stay focused.
Continue.
Stay focused, girl.
Continue.
Stay focused, girl.
Continue. I got his ass.
You messing with me, bro.
I got his ass.
LB. Okay. Listen. At 54, this fool married a 19-year-old whose father claimed at least 20 human beings as property. The next street was owned by a hotel owner who was also a publisher and was a physician. His name is Dr. Benoist Troost. Troost is named after a slaveholder. So, we'll start with you, LV. These streets and some monuments around the city are not going to be renamed. LV, you're up first. What are your thoughts on this? Is this good, bad, or ridiculous?
I'll give that part at the end. But first, I just want to say, you can catch us on YouTube. Go to YouTube, like, share, subscribe, click the bell. That way you get the notifications, and you'll get us whether you get us on Facebook or not. But this will be posted to the page. But now, back to this story. Now, me personally, I read the article, and basically when all the brouhaha was big with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, there was pressure there. So the city council, they came down, did their little thing like, y'all need to look in. We say y'all got to look into changing the names of some of these things, moving to some of this stuff. So it was like, all right, okay, well, that takes research. We just can't do that overnight. We have to research it, then try to find a replaceable name, blah, blah, blah. To the average person, the people that you name, okay, John Warnell, I never knew Warnell. I never knew that's how that street got his name from that man, okay? I live in Kansas. Do you think I give 5 fucks? No, I give no fucks, okay?
So you don't care there's a museum there on Warnell?
Huh?
There's a museum on Warnell for him.
Really? Now, okay. I didn't know he had a museum. Now, and honestly, if y'all want to try to shut down the museum, if the museum is promoting, doing what he did, that's what you should do. Maybe. But you can't just, I agree with, you can't totally destroy history. It needs to be there so that you can reflect from, so you know where you should not go back to when it's something that's derogatory. Moving on to truce. Now, anybody that has spent any time in Kansas City, I mean, truce is like, that's the strip. You can get some of anything, find some of anything, or find out about this, that, and the third from somewhere on Truce. And that is a long ass ghetto strip. Okay. Now, I can't see the people that live there are really that upset that they found out that he once owned five slaves, y'all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that's all he owned, if we're gonna put a hierarchy on it, I mean, that means they were probably like personal servants that were really pampered. He probably had them at, I don't know. I can make up what I want. They didn't tell me. You shaking your head, they didn't give me no facts. They left it to my imagination. All right. And what I'm sitting there looking at, like I said, I gives no fucks that he had 5 slaves back then when there were people that probably had 30, 40, 50 to hundreds of slaves. And if he only had 5, that means he took care of them. And those people were around for quite some time. And, you know, they probably backs wasn't all wept the fuck up from getting slashed. They wasn't out there in that hot ass sun for 13 and 14 hours. So at least he was a kind slave owner. He only had 5.
Apparently, you think slave owners only hung around during the cool time, right?
Who said he was kind?
Compared to some of the others, hey, now don't put me in the Kanye booth. I ain't saying they love that shit, but hell, I mean,
they had a choice.
Right? I mean, if I had the choice to be a house slave or a field slave, I would have chose to be a house slave. Hell yeah. If I had a choice. But getting back to the shit that really mattered, I don't care if they ain't changed the name of that damn street. Because at the end of the day, everybody gonna always refer to it as that. I mean, just like when they also in the article, it discusses how it was hard for them to even give the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King a street there in Kansas City. They put up a big fight about that. And I know that former Mayor Cleaver also has a street named after him there. But going back, I don't see how changing the names of those streets, and then like the McGee, I had no idea about McGee. I think that's in downtown. That's downtown, ain't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't nobody give a damn about that shit. It's you wasting taxpayers' money to have motherfuckers sit here and argue, then go out and do research, and they know they ain't gonna do the shit anyway. Take that money and beautify those areas. You know, if you want to do something, because Truth could damn sure use some improvements.
Well, I was just
that shit ain't changed.
What's your thoughts on that, Johnny?
Wait a minute. So at the end of the day, all this shit is very fucking ridiculous. It's a waste of fucking time and manpower.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And honestly, I think that the people that think like me, that's out there, you know, in the mud, they don't give a fuck. They give no fucks that they ain't changing their name. All right, I'm done.
Well,
okay, Johnny, quick.
I give back my time.
Good, bad, or ridiculous on this?
Well, I'm gonna put it to you this way: it's good they are not changing their names, and I'll give you the reason why. But to answer his question about truth and beautifying, LV hasn't been here in a while. I know you came in for a drop, but they have started revitalizing truth, and you have to also there is a borderline where the minorities live on truth, and the more affluent live on truth, and the more affluent living truth is starting to spread. Because if you go around Brookside and everything, you'll see that they're starting to make some major changes on truth. Now, the reason why I say it's good that they're not changing names, we can't have it both ways. And before I go down that path, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the Plaza area. You have J.C. Nichols. Well, J.C. Nichols' name was changed off that big fountain, that big structure there, because of his problems with Red Line District and not allowing Black people to get loans and move into different areas. So that name was changed. And this is kind of what led the changing of the names for other places. The reason why I'm saying that it's good to a point is we can't have it both ways, because we're talking about critical race theory by them trying to change history and won't allow all the history of the slave owners and all the different things that African American have gone through over the course of years. Well, if we start changing the name of these places that have been historically placed, set up, historically named after slave owners and different things like that. If you allow them to change that, then that's another little nuance that they can remove from us to change the history of America. And some things may not need to be changed, so it can be upfront and personal as to what we've gone through. When we start editing and changing and making moderation, it's easily to be lost as to where we come from. It's easy to glaze over our history. And I think just keeping those things there, and the most important thing, and LV talked about, is doing research and education. If you know from whence you come from, you will not typically repeat. And so if we remove these and whitewash, then that allows that critical race theory to take over because we will not know the real history of America.
All right. You made some really good points. In fact, I'm anxious to respond to one of them. But before that, let's see what Coleman's thoughts are on this. Coleman, good, bad, or ridiculous?
I think it's ridiculous from the standpoint that we all know what side Missouri and Kansas were on when it came time to free slaves.
True.
Um, we all know what happened with Brown versus the Board of Education. I mean, there are a number of things that have come out of the states when you look at Kansas and Missouri that would lead one to understand that there are going to be streets, buildings, and monuments named after slave owners. Now, I would disagree with John from the standpoint of changing monuments and the names of things, in my opinion, doesn't change the history. It changes who you're acknowledging as worthwhile to have monuments and things of this nature. And in my opinion, now you're weighing saying, all right, I did something great for Kansas City, but I also enslaved people. Which one has more meaning? And I think it has to be important that um, Warnell and Martin Luther King don't have the same value. If Martin Luther King has a street and we know what the struggle is and all the things that it took to accomplish that, not just with Dr. King, but all the people who fought to get that street, Warnell having a street named after him, those two streets do not mean the same thing. So for me, taking the name off of one doesn't whitewash the history. It only takes the name off a monument or changes the name of a street. The history is what the history is, which is why it's so important for us to be funding money into the school systems to educate and things of that nature. So from that perspective, I would agree with LV. I'm not necessarily here to fight and spend money on things that we know aren't going to change. This is the thing that always baffles me is that as a black man, I look at race and I look at racism and I look at all these things and I see it a certain way because of the way that it's impacted me, my community, my father, my grandmother, and having heard all those horrific stories and watched it on TV and all of these things. So it impacts me a certain way. But there's a whole nother group of people who has benefited from those same atrocities. So for us to come forth and be like, "Yo, we can't believe they're gonna change the names," I'm like, "Well, why not? Why come we can't believe that?" I mean, it's a system that has been designed for them to benefit from. Starting with the names is the beginning of it. But then after we get the names, what else are we gonna chop on? My problem with this particular fight is that it don't mean shit like LV said. It I'll be honest. I've written down Warnell. I've written down Truce, and sometimes I don't even know what street I'm on because I'm trying to find something. I got my GPS on, and I'm looking out. That street name doesn't impact me. What does impact me is what are you putting into the school systems? What are we really fighting to change to make the lives of people better? You know, the street names is cool. I get why we want to change them. I get changing the monuments and all that. I understand the symbolism. I've seen what happened in New Orleans. I mean, there's a number of places we can point to say this is value, even in Virginia when they took down a lot of the monuments. But when we get back to it, we have to say, is changing the name of that street or changing the name on any of those monuments, how is it benefiting the people of Kansas City who look like us, who are impoverished? How has that money been funded back into it so they have better opportunities, better education? If we don't have an answer for that, changing the street name doesn't do a whole lot for the community.
And I can agree with that point.
Yeah. Okay. I want to respond to a couple of things that y'all said. One, I disagree that because a fool only had 5 slaves, that he might have been kind. let me explain why they only had 5 or 6 slaves. They only had 5 or 6 slaves because the other 20 slaves escaped to Kansas, which was a free state. When you in Kansas, for those of you viewers out there who are not familiar with the Kansas City area, it's twin cities. There's Kansas City, Missouri, and there's Kansas City, Kansas. And actually, Kansas City, Missouri was in existence first before Kansas City, Kansas. It's a long, strange story as to how Missouri had a city named after Kansas before. But Missouri was a slave state. Kansas was a free state. So the 5 that he had left, they just hadn't made their way to Kansas yet.
They said he only owned up to 5. Your other man, they
Did
said.
it say that?
See, he gonna
Yeah.
make me.
They said the fool had 5 slaves. 20 escaped. They just didn't have time to report that.
Up to 6.
So are you going to, since you're giving a history lesson,
I ain't like Kanye. The shit was still fucked up, y'all. I'm just saying.
Yes. Okay.
Since you're giving a history lesson, are you going to talk about Jayhawk?
No, no, I don't even fully know that. But let's hold on, because we tried to do a 45-minute show. Okay, I vacillated back and forth between this being good and bad.
Vacillated. Come on, man. Use common verbs and pronouns and adjectives.
He switched between.
You fools use $20 words all the time. Now when I say something,
that's $1 billion word. Vacillated. I vacillated back and forth between.
I use that when I'm at work.
Would y'all stop it? Okay,
you know, listen. Some people he's like he vacillated. Ooh, this is an X-rated show. Man, go on with that, Eric.
He probably did that too.
Are y'all through? Okay, for real. I initially thought that Warner, I thought it was bad that name wouldn't be changed because that is a upper middle class to upper class area, and that fool don't deserve to have a street named after him. But Truce, I thought it was good that they don't rename Truce, because if you a slaveholder, if that slaveholder could roll down Truce, Truce is a slap in the face of a slaveholder. Now,
what?
Johnny
Well,
Quick,
why are you playing?
Saying that they've been doing
renovating. Yes,
they've been renovating. They've been trying to fix up Truce. Okay, I still feel like if that slaveholder, Truce will make a slaveholder turn over in their grave. Okay, so I'm in agreement with not changing it. They don't deserve to have affluent areas named after them. Now, McGee, that's downtown. Now, in a way,
have you traveled, JP, over Truce? Do you understand they have a new hotel? They have $200,000, $300,000 houses in the Truce area. Are you aware of this?
Yes, but a lot of our hoods now have new houses. Prior to the pandemic, I was doing therapy at a community center off Truce. It was rough. That's all I'm gonna say. It was rough. But yes, they are trying to, they're trying to make a lot of positive changes. Johnny Quick, you said something that kind of made me change my mind on this when it comes to critical race theory. I kind of agree with you that if we start changing names, it will make it easier for the history to get lost. Um, when you think about who we rely upon to teach history to our children, it would be easier for them to skip over that. And if the name has changed, yeah, it's just going to make it easier to do that. I agree with what Coleman and LB are saying, that we need to focus on more than just changing street names. But I think it's the current racial climate in America that has brought these types of issues to the forefront, and black folks are trying to grasp that we can grasp at, to make it clear that we have a place in this country, and that we are not to be dismissed, and that we are to be respected. And so those who are advocating for the changing of the names is because they do not want slaveholders to be honored with the names of these streets. But y'all did make a good point, and I am seeing it differently as a result of what you, Johnny Quick, and LV said. That's the history. And so, I don't think most people know that those streets are named after slaveholders. And yeah,
And so
here's the thing.
that's the part I don't get. That's the part I don't get. Well, we're talking about critical race theory and whitewashing and all these things. I am 52 years old, and I just found out this week that Truce was named after a slave owner. So that tells me it was never taught in school.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it was never a part of our Kansas City growing up in education. As many times as I done sat on Truce, rode Truce, da da da. So how does changing the name whitewash the history that we didn't know about until this week?
Right.
Well, I would
And
say it goes more into, because it goes back to what's being taught. And that's one of the things, as far as you mentioned, what culture different society pressed upon their people to learn the history of their area. And yeah, you could change your name, and people would know if it was called Johnny Quick Ave or if it's called Truce. And that's pretty much the responsibility of the educational system, and kind of responsibility of our parents to also teach us. Because luckily, I was blessed that my mother made sure I knew a lot of things, and so I can understand. And that's probably what feeds into my appetite to learn more about world culture and where we've come from and the history of things. Because when you learn about the whole red line district, because see, this could be a whole nother
But
show
hold
when
on,
you learn.
but hold on
Okay.
right quick, because what we're talking about, and I acknowledge what your mom has taught you, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think part of our group, part of what you bring forth is you bring some of that Kansas City history, and you also bring that desire to learn, that thirst for learning, and you also have a learning agility. But if we're talking about critical race theory, and if we're talking about what's being taught, and it's not being taught from a systematic standpoint across the board,
Right.
changing it is not a part of the critical race theory piece. That doesn't play into it because they're not teaching it.
yeah, but
But
something to think about is, yeah, they're not teaching that these major streets in Kansas City are named after slaveholders. But when they change the names of those streets, if they change the name of Truce to Truth Avenue, which is what was proposed, then everyone is going to know. So it's not going to be taught in classrooms, but everyone is going to know, oh, truth has been changed to truth because Dr. Benoist Truth was a damn slaveholder. Here's something to think about when it
Which
comes.
would
Let's talk
which
about
would make
I want to
race.
throw out the race card. I'm gonna throw out the race card on that because he said because my mother taught me, and see that's where I want to say if you were to propose these names, and one of the reasons why they're not changing is because you said propose these name changes. The other communities, the Caucasian community, they can tell you the history of these names. Now, where it falls is we don't teach it in our community, our culture, or whatever. But as soon as you start changing these names, they come up in arms and tell you who Dr. Truth was, who Purcell is, who this person is. You're like, I didn't know that. Now it's because they take pride to know their history and their agenda.
I even disagree with that.
Okay.
It'd be, yeah, it'd be the same thing if you start talking about taking something away from me. I'm gonna go do
Mm-hmm.
the research trying to figure out why you want to take it away, and then I will fight based on my research. But I think you go to the average white person in Kansas City and ask them, "Hey, well, who's Truth named after?" And they could not tell you. But as you start
Okay.
proposing these name changes and things of that nature, it was the same way with Nichols in the article they had in the Star and all that, which is how I found out about Nichols. Um, a lot of this is in the moment learning. And it's just like if you tell me something and I'll be like, oh, that's wrong. I just learned that shit, just formed an opinion on it, and might fight you to the death of it, even though I have no long history and knowledge and background in it. And if we say changing the name of the street would now bring light to the history of it, that would seem to be a more compelling reason to change the name. If it will now bring to light why it was changed, because it is not being taught.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing. Um, and I'm sure that a lot of people would agree with this. When it comes to the history of slavery in the state of Missouri, yes, most people know that Missouri was a slave state, but I don't think most people know the level of slavery that took place in Missouri because it was right next to a free state. So, unlike, whenever I go to the South, and Coleman, you know this because whenever I would visit you in the South, I always visit slave plantations. There's no slave plantations here. And so, because of that, people assume, well, slavery must not have really been taking place on a large scale in Missouri, kind of like these fools had
J-
5, 6 slaves. Okay, yeah, one
JP,
of them married somebody
there are
who had 20
plantations.
slaves, but the bottom line is there is a lot of farmland and agricultural areas in the state of Missouri. We don't know the extensiveness that slavery existed in the state of Missouri. This whole thing even coming up is bringing light to it and is education for our people, whether they change the names of the streets or not. It is bringing attention to it. Hey, slavery did exist in the state of Missouri, and these streets are named after slaveholders. All right, y'all, we got to get to our today's perspective, okay? Before we run out of time, here's today's perspective. What are some of the things that you don't like about our people, African Americans, our culture, African American culture, and our community, and what do we need to do to move forward as a people? It's kind of related to what we just talked about. But uh, Johnny Quick, you're up. What are some things that you are not particularly fond of, don't like about our people, our culture, our community, and what do we need to do to move forward as a people?
I'm gonna keep my shorts, allow other people to talk. So I'm gonna try to hit these points. One is we have to respect education in our community. That's the thing that hurts us the most is the lack of education, and that's not just being book smart. That's understanding the laws. That's understanding the financial impact of certain changes. And so we have to be focused and purposeful in what we learn and research and make sure we understand the difference as to what is accurate, factual, and what is just um, can't think of the word I want to use, but pretty much people form an opinion on or what their opinions are. They make out to be conjecture. That's the word I want to use. Understand conjecture. The second thing is we got to quick as people who want to shop at black owned. We have to quit going in there and asking for the hookup. That we have to treat them just like Walmart, Target, or anywhere. We just go in there and accept the price and pay for that. But in the same token, as a black owner, we can't just give people any old thing. We have to be professional and give them good customer service instead of thinking, oh, because you're black owned, you're a black person coming into my store, you should just accept whatever. No, you should give them high quality work and give them the professional service or merchandise that they would get anywhere else. And then finally, as far as culture, we have to step outside our comfort zone and experience new things. We get so comfortable with when you look at education, politics, travel, whatever. We like to just rest in where we're comfortable instead of opening our eyes to look at certain situations a little bit different. Because when we open up our eyes, then it form a better opinion. Because I think it was well, I forget how many years, but it was Muhammad Ali said, if you still think the way you did 40 that you did at 25, that was 15 wasted years. And we have to allow ourselves to grow. And with growth, it comes education and looking at things from a different perspective and stepping outside that comfort zone. And so that's the quickest way I could say everything I wanted to say.
Okay. LV?
I won't say that it's things that I don't like. There are more things that I like about our people. I'm a little different. I try to keep color out of it because you have the same type of people no matter what the nationality is. It's just all in who you interact with. I'm sure there are Caucasians, Hispanics, and Asians that have difficulties with people within their own race with different things about respect and maybe how they behave and maybe so-called embarrass the race with things and mindsets that they have. But I love my people. I'm proud of my people with education. Do we need to improve on it? Yes. You know, we all need to improve no matter how high we are. You can never stop learning.
Yes.
We need to have, I would say, maybe have a better drive to go outside of our race to understand others. And I think if all races try to actually understand others, we could all get along better. So things that may so-called embarrass my race, I can see the same things in other races that would embarrass theirs. So I don't put one above the other. It's all about improving myself and leading by example that those around me begin to improve in themselves and continue to have pride in themselves, because nobody can make me feel that they're better than me. My daddy taught me no man is better than you because he put his pants on one leg at a time. I don't care if he paid $500 for his pants and you paid $5 for yours. It's all the same thing at the end of the day.
Okay. Coleman? What say you say?
This is one I struggle with, man. You know, one of my biggest things is trying to, when something happens on the news, one of the first things I try to tell myself is do not ask if they black. It's just messed up. Black, white, indifferent. I think we as a community do a lot of things to punish ourselves. We, you know, I mean, everything from black on black crime, which is real. But when you look at any race that lives amongst itself, they
Yes.
have a higher rate of crime because those are the people they live around. So we're taking certain aspects of the black diaspora and we're trying to say this is good or this is bad. And that's something that I'm trying to move away from, because as long as I can pinpoint it and say, oh, this is black people's problem, it make it seem like no problem. And like LV and John were saying, every community has its issues. If you just look at the rate of killings on white, Asian on Asian, the numbers are very similar from
Yes.
a percentage perspective because they live amongst themselves. If you were going to kill, and this is going to sound bad, but if you're going to kill somebody, you're going to kill the people you live around because those
Yes.
are the people you're going to have issues with. Those are the people you're going to have contact with on a regular basis. But because it's our community, they try to make it seem like it's just them darkies over there killing each other. No, if you look at every killing each other, there's a systematic problem. So I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I had a certain issues with some rituals in the black community in the black church on like Mother's Day. It's things of that nature that I say, we could probably change some of this stuff. But the thing about our people, the thing about the black community is for the most part, in my experience, we don't target each other to make each other feel bad. There are certain things that as a result of, I may not like it or may feel bad, but that's not how we go about life. So, I mean, I'm with LV. You know, I love the people, but the big thing for me is trying not to take responsibility for the actions of others that have nothing to do with me. They don't say anything about me, ain't got nothing to do with me. So that's my big thing. That's my big thing is I do not want to be a part of a system that creates these images around ourselves that are negative because a lot of times they have if somebody kills somebody over on State Avenue tonight, I don't know them people. Why should I feel bad? I feel bad because somebody lost their life, but I shouldn't feel bad because two dummies had a conflict and something bad came out of it. It's not a reflection of me, my people, where I come from, any of those things. It's a much broader reflection of issues that are systemic that need to be dealt with that we have been able to dumb down and say these are black issues and they not.
Okay. Um, Here's my thoughts on this. I can agree with what y'all are saying that every community has its issues. When I thought about this question, though, I looked at it from the perspective of, you know, when I was a kid and I would do something and get in trouble, and I would tell my mama, well, and so did it too. And her response was, so if and so jump off a bridge, you gonna jump too? And so, yeah, I agree that other communities have their issues. I looked at this question from the perspective of I don't care what other communities' issues are. I'm caring about our community and our people because other communities and other ethnic groups and races have their issues or their problems or maybe doing the same things that we're doing. I'm still not okay with us doing it. And so here's what my thoughts are on things that I wish were different. As Lil John, I'm sorry, as Johnny Quick, also known as Lil John, said, I don't like that I have to fight with inner city youth living below the poverty line to get a damn education, as if our ancestors were not beat and hung for sneaking to learn to read. This is a constant frustration for me, especially when I am dealing with 16 and 17-year-old teenagers who are reading on a third grade level and there's no value for education. I don't like that I know black men who only miss their damn kids on Father's Day. I don't like it that other ethnic groups seem at times to treat each other better than our people. And I'm just saying, when you look at the news, the truth of the matter is, yeah, in the Asian community, they may have their issues. In the Hispanic community, they may have their issues. But the bottom line is, you're not seeing a lot of news stories about Asians doing a bunch of drive-bys and killing each other in their streets. I don't like the hypocrisy. I don't like it that we as a people have a fit about white folks and police mistreating us, but at the same time, we seem to be accepting of that behavior from our own people. That's learned helplessness. Okay. We're quick to get up in arms about what a white man has done, but almost seem slightly dismissive in our community about what a black man has done. I don't like it that our young people don't have a reputation for having a good work ethic. Okay. This is a problem that with our young people, they are not seen as being willing to do hard work or to do quality work. And I think a part of that is, I think in some ways, we as a people, as a result of slavery, decided ain't nobody gonna work the hell out of me like that. My ancestors were worked on plantations out in tobacco and cotton fields for free, and nobody is going to treat me like that. But I think we need to be careful about going to the opposite extreme, to the point where we don't appear to have a good work ethic. We still
You
need to be, hold on,
that's BS. Okay.
hold on. I'm saying this, in working with young people, it is frustrating to have so many conversations where they are in protest of, well, I got fired because they asked me to do such and such and such, and I wasn't doing that, or I wasn't doing this, and just issues around being willing to have a good work ethic. I don't like it that patronizing black businesses doesn't always result in a better experience or better service. And I'm saying this because when I hear stories from a friend of mine who talks about, I hired a black owned business to build my new deck, and I had a lot of problems with them taking a lot of breaks and taking long breaks and taking too long to get the job done, and trying to get them to like do the job, do the job, do the job. I have a problem with that, because that same black owned business, if they have a contract to work for a white homeowner, that person is going to walk away with a negative reflection on the quality of work being provided by a black owned business. Now, at the same time, I do feel that for some reason, black owned businesses are very keen on providing good products. I rarely hear people complain about the products, concrete products that a black owned business provides, but there are complaints about the service. It's kind of like going to a black owned restaurant, and you might not get the level of pleasantness that you want, but when the food comes out, the food is going to be incredible. And so I just wish that we put as much energy and invest as much in the service as the products. Um, I don't like it that when it comes to black on black crime, and yes, there's white on white crime, and there's Hispanic on Hispanic, Latino on Latino crime, or whatever the case may be. I still struggle with the amount of black on black crime. And not that I am encouraging, let me make this clear, I am not encouraging black folks or gangbangers or anybody of that matter to go out and kill racists. What I am saying, though, is that I struggle with, I have sat in my office in the middle of a therapy session and saw a drive-by shooting across the street. I have a damn problem with that. At the same time, when other atrocities are committed against our people, for example, George Zimmerman and the Trayvon Martin situation, and there's no way to really say this without sounding like I'm just saying that, you know, black folks are oftentimes willing to exhibit street justice against each other for certain things, but overlook other things that take place. Once again, I am not encouraging people to go out and kill racists. I'm just saying that,
You know,
yes,
you
Johnny Quick.
you know, and what you just went through, and now I have a little bit more time, I can articulate some things. We're allowing the narrative to be formed based off of other people. One thing we talk about black on black crime, and like Coleman said earlier, you kill within, or crime is committed within your proximity of where you live. So all these other things happen in all these other cultures and communities, but we allow the media to control that narrative to make it like black on black crime is higher. When you look at education, yes, people don't know community. Your property tax helps fund your board of education and your education. Well, when you look at some of these affluent areas where their money is actually going into to improve their education, you have to look at what type of education are you getting. Are you learning to be an entrepreneur? Or are you learning to work for other people? And so when you have PTA meetings where you have a certain demographics that go to these PTA meetings and protest, and then when you have these other demographics who are not able to attend, and I'm not going to say because they don't want, but because most of our community have to work 2 or 3 jobs, cannot attend their kids' baseball games or whatever, or can't attend PTA, they're not at the table to go to these board meetings to actually advocate on behalf of their kids for whatever reason why they're not there. When you have the largest social media that we have, we allow these narratives to be created, because one of the narratives out there that you've mentioned, that the absent black father, but if you check, there has been research done by the CDC and show that the black males are in their house, more in their house than any other culture, but we never push that narrative so people can understand what is really going on. We're allowing other people to create these narratives to tell a story about us. And when I mentioned as far as black owned business and going in, well, what I also wanted to say with that is, yes, we need to have professionalism on both sides, as a black owner as well as a consumer. But what goes with that is we have to be able to respect criticism just like any other business, because there's been businesses that have been critiqued on how poor their customer service is. Oh, you're coming down this black owned business. Why? No, you're trying to give me some inadequate product or inadequate service, and I'm giving you critique so you can better your product, not because you're a black owned business. And so sometimes we have to accept these critiques as being critiques of us as a person, not us as a race or a culture. And we have to grow from that and learn to control the narratives. Like you mentioned with the media, they have the thugs, they have all these different things out here. Like LV and Common, I love our people, but I want more for our people. And when I work with the youth, I expose them to multiple things so they can decide where they want to go in life. So they can be, as that old saying is, act like you've been there. If you've never been exposed to these different things, and all of a sudden you're excited by the glitz and glamour, and that's usually how people are able to get over on you, because they know you're not used to being here, so I can kind of take advantage of you. And one of the old sayings our parents grew up with, you have to be twice as good to only be considered half as good. And so we got to fight. We have to do this in that narrative that we, because we've allowed that narrative to say that we're a lazy race, lazy. But when you look at up until the 60s and 70s, who was working and building this country? Who was in the middle of working to? But we allow the narrative to come over to say that we're a lazy people. And we have to start taking ownership and start changing these narratives so people can understand, use social media, because we don't own all the multimedia, TV, the commercials, different things, but we do own that little bit of social media. And sometimes we use it to exploit the stereotypes of what people think of us. Case in point, 2 weeks ago, where that video went viral with the young lady balling out the guy who came and brought McDonald's food for one kid versus her other 3 kids. Come to find out, she used it as they call it, clout chasing, and it was a viral video because she knew people were going to focus on the negative stereotypes, so that made her able to go viral. So if we have that type of experience, that type of resources, that type of tool at our disposal, why don't we use these tools to actually create the narratives that's going to go viral to tell better stories of our community? I'm done.
I agree that we need to try to control the narrative. I agree that the media distorts the level and the gravity of negative things in our community. But as I started off, I'm not really concerned about us comparing ourselves to other people. I'm concerned about what happens. And we as
Yeah.
people are not going to move forward so long as we continue to say, well, white folks do it too, and Mexican folks do it too. That is not what it's going to take. Yes, the media distorts how much of this takes place, but when it's on the media, it happened. When they show the story on the media and the lights are flashing and you know somebody has been murdered or whatever the case may be, we can't focus on the fact that, okay, they ain't showing that some white folks killed each other in their neighborhood also. We will move forward when we accept responsibility for what's going on in our neighborhoods,
Yes.
in our community, and we should expect more from ourselves than from our counterparts, than from this race and ethnic group or that race and ethnic group. That's what I'm saying. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
accept responsibility.
what.
Accept responsibilities. When we do wrong, accept that we did wrong. We need to correct it.
Yes, that's all
Do
I'm
not
saying.
disagree with that. I don't disagree with that.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this? Because we're out of time. Y'all have any other thoughts on this? Okay. My final thought is one other thing that we can do to help us move forward is those in our community who are showing a different way of life, a different way of living can be more present. Because what I feel like happens is that, yes, the majority of Black folks in America are not living and playing into these negative stereotypes, but our youth are not getting to see those Black folks. What they're seeing is Black folks who are falling into those stereotypes because we tend to, as we move forward in progress, we become more removed from our community. And our youth are not able to see that there's another way of life, that there is another approach to education and this and that and this and that. And we just need to be more present, more present. Even if you don't want to be involved, I'm not saying everybody has to go out and mentor a Black child or this or that, but just be more present and visible so that young Black children can see that there are other options. That's all I'm saying. That's our show for today. Thank you all for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Like, share.
Subscribe, click the bell.
Thank you.